Hello, welcome back to All for United WFC. It's weird. It's the weird time of the year. It's the final show of the year. I don't like this time of year purely because everything's like the last of something. It's the last this, the last that. But here we are, final show of 2024. We're gonna have a little bit of a recap. We're aware the men kick off in 55 minutes, but to be fair, the way they're playing at the moment, does anyone really want to watch them? You know, there's a lot going on over there. I know Ian already put in the chat about wondering whether you should make the walk over or not. But we're going to do everything in terms of 2024 because Michael did ask, was it necessary to put the Chelsea Old Trafford picture? We're going to do the highs and the lows as it says in the thumbnail. And I have a feeling when I ask everyone what their highs are and what their lows are, they're both going to be the same answer, I feel like. So we shall see as we get through it. But firstly, let's check how Barry and George are because obviously it's been what's it been, 10 days since the Christmas special that Barry's looking a little bit different. No tints around his neck this week. How are you doing, Barry? Did you have a good Christmas?
Yeah, it's very nice, thank you. Very busy, lots of people to go and see. You ended up like a massive taxi service. You've heard of Uber. I was just Ubers, just cracking on, doing all of that really. But it was fine, very enjoyable. Lots of pigs in blankets, and we're in that funny time of year, like you say. Nigel's back on EastEnders, everyone, and he called it Betwixtmas. And that's exactly what it is. I couldn't have even told you it was Monday today. I only knew because you asked me to be on a show, and that's generally on Monday. Otherwise, I wouldn't have a clue. So, yeah, funny old time. But here we are, and all ready to look back over, like you say, the highs and lows, the ups and downs of what has been a very interesting year to be a Manchester United fan.
It certainly has. And Georgia, for yourself, how are you doing down there? Did anyone flip the Monopoly board on Christmas Day? Because that was almost like a question that I think needs answering after the Christmas special we did.
I didn't flip it, but if anyone would have done it, would have been me. Barry, your tip of the blue and oranges went horrifically wrong.
Do you have people in your family who would do this, where they would buy one of the ones that you're trying to get a group of and then basically blackmail you? You know, you can have this if you give me like £5 million and your firstborn child. You know, that sort of. Is that what what your family is like?
Exactly that. So it was a tense game for sure. There was a couple of breaks needed for everyone to cool down, but we got there in the end.
And you didn't win?
No, not this year, but back stronger for next year.
We'll try again.
Learn something there. Don't listen to Barry when it comes to Monopoly tips, I think, on that one. And yes, hat trick of appearances. Now for Georgia, already up to 3. Signed the contract a couple of weeks ago and already 3 appearances in. Who would have thought? Mark Skinner, that's how you do it, you see. Bringing them appearances, that old thing. Anyway, evening to everyone in the chat. I'm just bringing your comments up as we go. We're going to get into all that. But the first kind of question I've got then, if I was just to ask you in a few sentences, Barry, so I'll start with you, just to summarise 2024 as a United Women's fan, how would you do it? Because as we said, there's a lot of highs. There's obviously a few lows in there as well. We're going to talk about some of those in specifically and things like that. But if you could summarise the year, how would you do it?
I mean, firstly, we forget, don't we, that it's not just in England that people watch, because I read this and I'm like, at 7 o'clock at night? What are you doing at the zoo? What can you possibly see?
Joseph is in England, by the way.
Outside. To be fair, Joe, don't worry. You can a massive tiger on your profile pic there, so you can just stare at that. But yes, there we go. So look at that, the zoo. People watch us everywhere. People outside Old Trafford. Right. How would I summarise 2024? I mean, I called it interesting a minute ago. And I think it has been on both sides of the coin, really. We can't hide from the fact that running up to May, we were disillusioned with how things were going, constantly questioning why some people are not getting given contracts, why we're not getting given any information, all of those sorts of things. And I think it's really tricky to marry that up with everything else. Somebody on here has already put, you know, it had a lot of lows, but that high was massive. And I think we do have to really hang on to that high, massively so, because you've got to enjoy the good times when they happen. You can't allow everything else that's negative around your life to bring that down. And I think that moment, I will be forever grateful that I was there to see it live in perfect line, to see Ella Toon's rocket Some people enjoy Cape Canaveral because they can see the rockets fly up into space. For me, Wembley Stadium, seeing that rocket in the top corner will be one of my top 5 memories when I'm lying on my deathbed, I would reckon. It's going to be one that I want to be flying across my, not literally the rocket, because that, ouch, could hurt, but the memory. I think it was just absolutely stunning. So I think because I'm a football fan, I'm allowed to do that. I've just wiped out 2024 and I'm just concentrating very much on that. Other highlights, obviously, having a defence. We had a good defence, to be fair, a good defence last year and a good defence this year also, an immaculate defence. So, yeah, I think for me, those are the main highlights, to have a really good defence, as we have had a couple of times now over the last few seasons. And FA Cup, first major trophy, unbelievable.
Yeah, we're definitely going to come back to the FA Cup as a whole segment, I feel like. So I know what the answer is going to be as soon as I ask for people's, I guess, big highlights or best moment and things like that. Somebody noticed, I was waiting for someone to point that out, because I've had the same background on shows for probably about 3 years. So you'd have seen me on the men's channel, on this channel with a background. Essentially, all I've done is flip this desk around. So I'm now, what was behind the camera is now behind me. But there'll be some, you'll see this backdrop change over the next kind of couple of weeks. So a lot of stuff to put up on this wall, but that was the idea. I wanted a blank wall and everything's going up there. So that was the idea. So yes, you'll see that change even more over the coming weeks. See, we're going more professional now. You see, can't just be rocking up with a door behind me and everything else. But I say that as George has got a door right behind him. But there we go. Speaking of Georgia, how would you kind of summarize 2024?
24 was, I think, a roller coaster of every single emotion. Like Barry touched on, the FA Cup final and the semi-final will be 2 of the best days of my life forever. But obviously, we all remember the lows as well. Quite rough season. 24, a lot of. I think it was a confusing year for the club and for the fans. I felt like we weren't really getting anywhere. But then the first major trophy, that day at Wembley, no matter how bad the season was surrounding it or the performances surrounding it before the final, no one will ever be able to take that day off us or the FA Cup off the club. But no, it was a difficult year, I think, but filled with lots of good moments, exciting players signed. But yeah, all looking good for the future and for a much better 25, I hope.
It's interesting you say that. Leading up to the FA Cup, our results were pretty poor. I mean, we drew at home to Spurs, lost away at Liverpool. We only just beat Leicester with an Ellison kind of rocket there as well. It was like it wasn't. I mean, the league form last season was pretty dreadful. The draw away at West Ham, and we didn't beat a single top 3 team apart from Chelsea in the semi-final. In the league, we lost all of them bar one, which we drew at home. Obviously, it was Arsenal. So. It was an interesting kind of year when you look at it like that, and it is hard to. I'm kind of like with you two. I just block out the league form of this year in the early part of the year because it's strange. When I was asking that question, I was thinking, how would I summarize? And I'm almost just like, well, we're in a decent enough position in the league at the moment. Like we've only lost once. Like we've only conceded 3 in the league, and it's almost like, well. You would expect the mood to be better. Now, obviously, the general mood around the club at the moment is not helping things. I tweeted it the other day, every day there's a negative news story at the moment. So I don't think that's helping. But it's, certainly up and down when we're looking at it from that point of view. Right, we're going to start with the best moment because I feel like this is, everyone I think is going to say the same thing. And I hope so because it's worth talking about again. And we did a 2.5-hour show on it the day after. Just as a nod of heads, are we all going to say the FA Cup final is the best moment of 24? Just to double check. Barry, you're not going to say like Liverpool away or something like that or some random game.
I'm not going to lie, but I've been trying to think of something that you've done or said over the course of the year. I'm coming up with a blank at the minute for something that was genuinely catching me cold on that one. So no, yes, we are going to all say the FA Cup final, yes.
Indeed. So let's quickly. I don't want to go over the whole game again because we've done that. You can go watch that show, 2.5 hours long, as I said, a mammoth of the show. But George, I'll start with you on this. But in terms of just your, I guess, the feelings around that, and well, 2-part question really. One, how big it was to the club in terms of getting over the line and that first major on, and second final in a year, obviously losing to Chelsea the year before. Obviously that in terms of how big it was, but just your, I guess, personal highlight from, I guess, either the FA Cup run, because all of our FA Cup games are in 2024, and on the day as well.
Yeah, so in terms of the FA Cup run, just putting the final aside for two, because obviously lifting the trophy, I don't think you ever top that. You know, if we did it on the day and we beat Spurs, but that first goal, Garcia's goal that went in on the semi-final, I think that, I mean, nobody really gave us a chance or a hope against Chelsea when we drew them in the semi-final, you know, probably slightly including myself as well. I thought, oh, Chelsea again, going to stop us from getting to an FA Cup. And then when Garcia's was in the first couple of minutes, and then I want to say Rachel's was 26 minutes or something, and then I think we just defended for the rest of the game with, I don't think I breathed for the last 60 minutes of the game. But no, that was, when that final whistle went, I felt like we had a pretty good chance of going to Wembley and winning it. But that, I think, was my favourite in the lead up. And then I think sometimes I forget how cagey the first 20 minutes of the FA Cup final were. I think it was just a bit of a blur on the day, but obviously it was bright, hot day, Wembley, thousands and thousands of United fans there. And then when Toon just whacked it top bins to go 1-0 up before half time, I don't think I've actually had a happier moment in life. Not even just in football, in life. I don't think I've ever been as happy as I was when I saw the back of that net ripple for that goal. And in terms of the club, like we said, it had been an up and down year prior to the FA Cup final, at the club itself, and then everything going on in the media with a story every couple of minutes coming out and contract talks being all up in the air. But I think for the club to finally get, obviously, we got the Championship trophy, but a first major honour, to lift the FA Cup at the home of English football, we're Manchester United. It is important that we keep adding trophies to our cabinet, our CV of football, if you like. Sorry, I couldn't think of the word then. So I think just to get the first one and to get over the line, we knew what it was like to be at Wembley last year and watch Chelsea lift it. And, we weren't going to let that happen again. So, yeah, I think incredible, just to sum it up.
No, certainly. Well, as I said there, obviously the FA Cup, the Chelsea FA Cup game. I always say, for me, that was the final, and the actual final was more like a party, it felt like. But you are right to point out, I remember saying to, obviously, Jess Amir, who was stood next to me, like, those first 40-odd minutes, until Tooney scored, I was like, what are we doing? Like, we've almost like come to Wembley as the favourites and not choke, but it did feel like we weren't in the game, and it was like, oh god, like I never really thought we'd lose, but it was certainly nervy. It was closer than I wanted it to be in that first 40 minutes, that's for sure. Barry, for yourself, same kind of two questions: how important the win was, but also your personal highlight of that day.
Well, first of all, for everybody who wants to know, we're not sponsored, but it's Robinson's Orange and Ginger in the tank. So there we go. It's not water. If you really want water that colour, Christ on a bike, I don't think so. So there we go. That's that one. I think people are right to highlight the Chelsea game. That was absolutely massive. To get our first win over Chelsea, I think really helped us mentally as well, because every time we were coming up against Chelsea, we'd never beaten them. And that can really start to get in your head, I think, as a player. So once we'd done that, I think that was quite important. So massive game, massive win, and we deserved it as well. It wasn't handed to us. It wasn't through any dodgy decisions or anything like that. It was just a fair, straight up win, and I think that's massive as well. With regards to the final, though, mate, I mean, what a day it was! Like, I mean, Georgia says she's probably never been as happy in life. I've got a few more years than her, so I can't necessarily say it was the top, but it was, like I said, it's top 5. It's right up there in terms of how you end up feeling. And like all day, it was a very different one. Getting on the train to get into London, trying to find you was hardly entertaining. As they just shut the little tiny road that would have let me go straight to your hotel, so I ended up having to go around the back streets and felt like I was in GTA or something like that, just hoping I wasn't going to get, mugged off by someone. But that was quite something. And obviously we met up with a few people around the ground. Getting in there, being stood with Charlie and saving her life was huge as well. But I genuinely, Georgia, she very nearly went head first off the side. It was not sensible at all. But I think also what was just really good about it was just walking out and seeing that many people. We've seen some big attendances at Man United, but to walk out at Wembley for a women's game where traditionally we've seen a couple of thousand, pretty much every week, to see it effectively sold out, to see a Spurs end all in white down the other end, our end all in red, all the entertainment that was going around the outside, all the people that we met from the channel who watched us. Honestly, it was just absolutely unbelievable. And then to go and watch that, see a 4-0 win, and then the party afterwards, off to Box Park. One of our players at Stevenage works for Spurs, so I was able to get the chance just to see her afterwards, and I didn't rub it in too badly at all with that. But just very nice. It was honestly just such a wonderful day, and I think that's why it's so easy to take that moment and just sort of forget about the other 364 days, or 363, because the Chelsea one, like I said, was pretty good. It's easy to forget about those things because ultimately it's a results business. You want to win trophies, and we've done that. And that's really important because when you want to solidify yourself as one of the top 4 teams in the country, you need to start having these honours on your badge, on your chest, and on your wall. And that's very much what we've got now. So yeah, massive, huge, brilliant.
No, absolutely. I think everyone's going to have their own personal highlights, I think, from the day. And I think when you're looking at the day as a whole, I think, I've said this a number of times on here, the fact that everyone from this channel was there for the first time at any game, that we've ever had since we've been doing this, was quite something, as you said, obviously before and afterwards, was brilliant in that respect. But a moment I think we can all agree was one of the best and captured by me, which I was really happy with. If you forgot what Ella Toon did in the final, sorry, this is going to cover, because it's a portrait video, so this is just going to cover Georgia up. And in fact, you don't need to see me. Let's have a look at what we saw from the stands when Ella Toon just decided to do that. Do you know what I love best about that? How high my voice goes. That is me, you can hear, by the way, on that video. But yeah, that was quite something. We had the perfect, I think, view for that. And yet settled the note, and I can't explain. For those of you who were there, half-time in the concourse, anyone who went into the concourse at half-time, was something like I've never seen at a United Women game before. That was quite something.
Play it again.
Do you want it to get off? Just move, Georgia.
Yes, I do. I was ever so slightly to the left of you, and when it left her foot, it looked like it was going wide, like marginally, and I'm like, oh no, and it just sort of turned, and it's this bit really that JJ's saying, because as it curled, you're just going, hang on, go on, and then boom, postage stamp. Oh, it was just, honestly, I never swear on these things, but I so closely could with that because it was just beautiful.
For those of you who want to watch that back as well, you can hear Jess next to me, just going, go on. Literally, as you were saying there, you can just about hear her next to me. And I'm surprised I didn't get a bruise on my arm, to be honest, because when that went in, she just grabbed hold of my arm. Which is why you see the phone dip, because I'm holding the phone. And then, just unbelievable. And like you said, the day as a whole. And yeah, it's probably going to be the last time I get to mention this on here. Certainly, well, it will be this year. But as a personal thing as well from me, obviously, actually getting to hold the medal afterwards was incredible. So if there's elements, if you are still watching this, I don't know whether you still watch the channel these days. Thank you for that moment, because that was unbelievable. And I will say the medals were a lot heavier than you think. I remember looking at them on TV thinking they must be quite light. They're not. They are quite heavy. So that was quite a moment, which I'll obviously never forget either. So yeah, it kind of rounds off that in terms of an FA. Oh, go on.
Not got the footage of you dancing at Box Park with a flag? Not going to throw that up today?
Absolutely not. Georgia's laughing because she's seen it.
It's outrageous.
I wouldn't call it dancing.
You kind of dancing?
Moving with a flag, I think, is more. What I would call it. Yeah, you missed all of that.
What? Beth England was dancing till God knows what time. She was absolutely loving life.
It made us laugh, actually. And again, for people who were there, you would know this. When Box Park kicked us out, because we were there until it shut, when they kicked us out, Beth England was playing football and cricket with United fans outside Box Park on the strip as well. Honestly, she's one of my favorite. Well, for that reason, just one of my favorite 99 players, because she was brilliant with that one. TJ, honestly, it was. Will I ever release that? I probably won't, because it's not something.
I'm gonna have to see if I can find this at some point. Clearly.
Oh God, that's me going to be exposed on the show next.
If I remember, Connor, which is every chance I'm going to forget, because United run after this, so you might survive.
Indeed. So that's obviously the FA Cup final. I'm sure, and no one in the chat has, I don't think, put any other, because I was thinking about this earlier, whether any other game could come up, and it's just the semi-final and the final. You know, I think just what it meant for the club, and I think everyone personally will have fond memories of that one. So I don't know what my next question was. Yes, I do. Top score, and I've just stopped sharing my screen, because what I was going to do is bring up, where is it? That one. Here we go. So in 2024, as we kind of tweeted yesterday and post that. So these are the scorers from 2024. What I found interesting when putting this together, we've got not a single player in double digits, which I thought was a little bit disappointing. I can't lie, considering the amount of games we've had. Granted, you know, our top scorer there left in the summer, so she's not had too many more. But that does make it interesting for me, the fact that in our top 5, 2 of those have left. So this season, again, just kind of backing up. We've not scored all that many, or players that have. Turlan's obviously is the closest up there. All of Mallard's bar 1, I think, was last season as well. So, and obviously Alatoon, all of last season as well. So I think when you look at that, 17 different scorers, I think is good. But I'm a little bit disappointed, I can't lie, that we haven't got a player in double digits with the amount of games we've played. But as I said, part of that could be because of players, our top scorer leaving over the summer. Have we got any comments on that, Barry, in terms of any names you would expect to be higher on that list, lower on that list? What's your
I was amazed looking through this list, and by the way, this was a cracking slideshow that was put together with loads of brilliant sort of information that you'd expect to see from a top Twitter channel such as All for United WFC. I can say that because I don't write on it. But Elizabeth Turland, seeing that she's on 5 already, and she's only 3 off of Nikita Paris, when you bear in mind that Keats had from January through till May to achieve that, and Queen Lizzie is very much only from September having that opportunity. So it shows that she's very much on course for being our top goal scorer this season without a shadow of a doubt. I think looking at people like Ella Toon, that she's going to get you goals. But I think, the double digits thing was what really got me as well. We need that. If you're gonna win properly, you need somebody who's going to get you double digits in a season, but equally within a year. And yeah, it's frustrating. You can understand Rach not getting them. 8, considering the limited time that she really spends on a pitch, is absolutely unbelievable. Keats had a great season last season. We know that. Ella scoring 6 this year, despite the fact that half the fan base say she needs a rest and, she's not all that. But you look at that and you realise that actually she scored 6 goals. And let's be brutally honest, that's it's the 3rd best out of the entire team. So maybe not fair, the criticism that she's getting. Melvin Mallard, of course, we know is superb. So I think there's some good ones there. Nice to see some of the defenders chipping in as well, though. Maya getting a goal, Millie getting 3, Millie getting 2. Even Hayley Ladd's managed to get one this year, which is impressive, seeing as how she's only played about 30 seconds of football. So, yeah, it's quite amazing. Nice to see Emma Watson on there. So some youngsters coming through on that as well. I think it's absolutely really, really good to see. And yes, absolutely, TJ Grace just one off of Elizabeth Turland as well, which I think is absolutely stunning. So I think there's some really positive things to take out of there, but we are still waiting for a double-digit goal scorer. And I think until we get that, the top of the league is going to be somewhat off. You look at City; they've got Bunny Shaw. You've got someone who's virtually guaranteeing you goals, and everyone chips in around that. We just need that, and I'm positive that Elizabeth Turling can be that person. But it's just they don't do anything.
Yeah, I think when we do this next year, I would expect Turling to be, providing she doesn't get injured, I would imagine she's going to be double digits at least. George, I'll throw the same question over to you, and little trigger warning for you here. Lucia Garcia, I know that you were a big favourite. She was a big favourite of yours, sorry. Up there with 5 as well. Have you got any kind of thoughts on that? Like I said, 17 different scorers looks good, but I think for me, it's just the disappointment of maybe not having at least one in double figures.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have someone, up there on, 14, 15 goals. But like you both mentioned, I am so confident that when we're doing this show this time next year, that Turland will be up there in double digits quite comfortably. 17 goal scorers. I like that we've got goals that come from anywhere on the pitch. We're not just reliant on strikers, but equally, like Barry said, I think until we can really prove, and I do think Turland will be this, it's not a knock on her, but I do think until we have a clinical, a confident, consistent striker, like, Chelsea have, in years gone past, Sam Kerr, and obviously now they've got Ramirez in, Bunny Shaw for City. I do think that will really hold us back. If we conceded only 3 goals in the league this season, but perhaps struggled in front of goal in some games. So fingers crossed. I'm sure Turland will become that striker. We know the striker she can be. We all saw her at Brighton. And like we said, she's only been here since September, and we're now just heading into January. So being 5, having 5 already, she's joint 3rd on the list. Joint 3rd on the list. So happy and confident with her, and I'm sure she will be our triple digit, not triple, maybe not triple, double digit.
If she does triple digits in a year, then my God, that is going to be something else.
I'll stick her to double digits for now, but fingers crossed for triple.
Come on, Lizzie, you can do it. It's just a hat trick in every game. Come on.
No, I think you both make fair points. I think, when you look at that, and Mallard is higher than I would have thought, maybe, considering she's not, I think the one criticism, obviously, is Mallard's minutes at the moment. And, she's up there still with 5 as well. It's one of the highest. So, yeah, I think it was interesting. I think when you put it together, James made the point earlier, the fact that Jace is only on 1 in 2024, I think is a little bit disappointing. She did get, obviously, that goal being the first one of this campaign against West Ham on the opening day. So, yeah, I think I would like to see some more. I think Galton, should probably be aiming higher. Jay certainly should, and I think some of our other attacking players that we've seen this season, I think need to be kind of aiming a little bit higher as well in a year thing. Obviously, if they leave next summer, it's a little bit difficult because they've only had half a year when we do the year one. So, yeah, I just want to see a little bit more, I think, on that one.
I think you're right. I mean, Leah's obviously had a bit of an injury, hasn't she? And Jay's, I think, has taken a while to sort of settle into an actual role at the club and do what she can do and turn into the exciting player that we have seen. It's a shame that the only goal that we've seen from her this year was right at the very beginning of the season by winning the ball high up the pitch off of a goalkeeper, effectively. So, you know, we do need to, like you say, see a bit more from her. But I would give Leah a little bit of leeway even from being injured as she was. Sorry, Carl.
No, I do tend to agree. And I actually think Jace has been brilliant this season. It's just, again, up in those numbers ever so slightly. But she is high up on the next list. And Georgia, I'll come to you first on this list, which is obviously the assist. Jace is right up there with 4. So she's doing pretty well on that one, joint with Galton there, Nelson with 5. Katie's Ellum up there with 8, which obviously a lot of those were either... Well, I can't remember exactly where they came from, but obviously these are assists. So this is, you know, set plays and all kinds of things. But she did rack up a lot of assists, you know, that's almost double what most people are on. And she left in the summer. So the fact that we haven't necessarily replaced that as such. But Celine Bezet up there as well, you know, with 3, a player that only came in the summer as well. Just your thoughts on that list?
Yeah, obviously with Zellum not being on set pieces anymore, well, I'd imagine that's where most of her assists came from, off the top of my head, thinking about it. Lisa is actually higher on that list than I expected. That might just be from bad memory. But it's good to see Jace up there. I'd probably like to see a couple of... Oh, sorry, my screen's gone black. Can you still see the assist thing?
Yeah.
Yes, very, very clearly.
Okay.
It disappeared from yours.
Mine's gone blank. Okay, 2 seconds.
I love how you started that sentence with "I want to see more of," and then screen go.
I didn't see anything.
Oh, there we go. I'm assuming she's restarting. Is what's going on there. So Barry, I will come to you while George is kind of. Oh no, she's back already. Geez, that was
back.
Great.
She is back.
Sorry.
She's back. Back again.
Can you see it now?
George is back. Can you see it?
I can see it now. Yeah, sorry. Again, 17 different players with an assist. Again, they're coming from all over the pitch. But sorry, I've lost my train of thought on where I was. That really threw me off. Obviously, Bazette only coming in the summer with 3, 2 against Spurs, and I think the other one was against Brighton for Grace's goal. So good to see her, and I think obviously her numbers will go higher through the year, maybe ending in double digits as well, fingers crossed. I think Toon probably needs to be aiming for higher, same with Galton, across an entire calendar year. Good to see some come from obviously Anna Sandberg's already on 1. I do think if we can play Miyazawa how she should be played in our team, I think she will rack up the assists quite quickly. Her pass timing through the middle is one of my favourite things to watch when she's on. But yeah, I mean, the list, it's pretty similar to what I would have expected it to be, apart from I didn't realise Lisa had that many, which is obviously good.
You're telling me you didn't expect Gemma Evans to be higher up that list?
Oh, sorry, I didn't see Gemma. Yeah, that was the biggest shock on the list.
To be fair, I was trying to actually think when I was putting this together, where did she get the assist? But it was actually that free kick to Mallard, if anyone remembers that. I think it was Spurs, I want to say, when we drew 2-2. It was a brilliant free kick, floated in from the left foot of Gemma there. And it was Mallard, I think, that put it away. So, yeah, as you said, a couple of defenders on there, obviously Blundell, Letitia Sandberg, Turner, like we've had a few. So Barry, same question to yourself, but also, highlighting this, Clinton's not on that list yet. For 4 goals so far, but no assists registered. For a player in her position, I would have thought she would at least have 1 by now.
Yeah, but a lot of that comes down to the people that are shooting as well, doesn't it? They've to get the assist, they've got to score. Doesn't mean that she's not putting any good balls through, because I think she has done. But they've then got to go on to score. So yes, I think it is a surprise to not see her on the list yet. But like I said, there's numerous reasons for that. And I was very intrigued to see 17 players again, the exact same amount of people that scored as the exact same amount of people who assisted. And it's not all the same people. But if I was right in saying, was it 61 goals?
Yeah.
So that's 19 goals that have been scored through either individual brilliance or a mistake or penalties, effectively, or a set piece, in order for it to not have an assist. Which again is quite an interesting stat. The idea that almost a third, that's a quarter, sorry, of goals through either individual brilliance or that sort of thing. Listen, seeing Katie's element at the top of the list just depresses me. I'm sure we're going to get onto our worst moment of the year. Is that coming?
We will get to that. Yeah, that's my next point.
Lovely. Well, spoiler alert. Top of the list. But what's lovely to see is Lisa Nielsen there in second. She's another one, a bit like Ella Toon, who gets, sort of done down really for what she provides to the club. But the fact that she is the second highest assist maker of the year does show that she definitely has a role to play somewhere for me within this team. Ella Toon obviously managing to do it as well, which I think is, again, a really big moment. It is also, it's an interesting one. You've got 17 players, but what's that? 2, 4, 6. That's 7 of them are just on one. So they're sort of their one assist throughout a whole year isn't necessarily the biggest, most amazing thing they could have done. So really, I'd be expecting to see a few more people a bit higher up than this. There's people saying that Cillian is obviously at the top of it this year, but it's 3. It's not a massive number of assists, and I think this is partially what we're getting to, because you need to have. I don't think it's a reflection necessarily on these players. It's a reflection on the finishing. The fact that we don't have players within double digits, and those people should be Melvin Mallard, it should be Elizabeth Turland, it should be Leah Goulton, it should be Jays, who are up there getting between 5 and 10 goals at the beginning of a season. And if they do that, these numbers all of a sudden spot up. You'll see people like Nielsen and Jays and Toon and Goulton and all of these people getting more assists. So I think what these numbers really show us is really, especially with the assists, that we're just not scoring. And that seems really silly because 61 goals in 31 matches, that's 2 a game. But we're just not. We're not getting those the goals that we could do. It'd be interesting to see, the numbers for people like Chelsea and City and how many goals they score in a calendar year, because part of me would not be surprised if it's double this.
Yeah, I'd be intrigued to do it. I'm not putting Chelsea. Someone else could do that, but just putting it out there with how long it takes me to. Joseph actually references earlier in my spreadsheet and stuff. Honestly, if I could, I'm not going to share my screen and show you, but it's a massive sheet, and it took me a few hours to put all of that together. I am not doing that for another team. Going back through, trust me when I say it's got everything that you could possibly need on there. So, but yeah, no, I tend to agree. And there are a few players potentially missing out. I'm surprised no Jade as well for how well she's played, not to have a goal or an assist in 2024. I think it's a little bit disappointing. Obviously, she's missed quite a few through injury as well. I didn't actually put this on the wrapped photos. I don't even know which. Sorry, I'm going through my various sheets now. But when I was looking at appearances, in terms of how many appearances players have got, obviously Maya and Millie have played every single game in 2024. But when you're looking down from that, Rachel Williams is actually the third highest with 28, Mallard with 25, 2 and 24, Jay's 24. Most of our players are under 20. 22 of our players that have featured this year are under 20 appearances. So that's more than obviously 11. That's 11 or more games missed for those players. So yeah, I think when you're looking at it from that point of view, obviously, down at the bottom, obviously you've got the 3 youngsters that debuted recently, and Sandberg and Guerrero as well, which, yeah, I'm still convinced Guerrero wasn't even a United player, to be honest. I think that was just some experiment that we did. And there was just a player that appeared in a United shirt every so often. Yeah, so I found that interesting. Like I said, when you're looking at the appearances, Jason 24 is higher than I thought as well. So that's a lot considering I thought it felt like she missed a lot, but clearly not because she's right up there in the top 5. So moving on to this is not going to be a nice part of the show, but the lowest moments. Georgia, I'll come to you first again on this one. There's a couple, I think, to choose from in this one. So it's going to be interesting because some people might go for a player departure. Some people might go for 6-0. Some people might go for a certain contract. Some people might go for a result. What was your, I guess, lowest moment as a United Women's fan this year?
I think it has to be the final whistle at Old Trafford. The final whistle last day of the season at Old Trafford when Chelsea had put 6 past us, and then not only that, we then had to watch them lift the league at Old Trafford. It was. I didn't necessarily go and, we'd obviously just come off the back of the FA Cup final. We'd played them, must have been maybe 6 weeks before in the semi-final. And, I didn't necessarily think we were going to go to Old Trafford that day and win, as much as I would have loved to have stopped them winning the league on the last day. But I think it was just the floodgates opened from the first couple of minutes. It was awful. To lose 6-0 anywhere to anyone is awful, but to do it at Old Trafford against Chelsea so that they could lift the league, I think that was. I felt. I don't even know if flat is the right word. I think by half time you'd sort of accepted that this was going to be. It could get ugly by the end of it in terms of the scoreline. I think that was my lowest moment of the season, but I think. Also, on that final whistle, there was a little bit of a sigh of relief. There was from me anyway, that season was done and over, and we could just sort of put that to bed and focus on, we'd won the FA Cup. Obviously, the actual season itself was not one of our best. But yeah, there was a couple, Liverpool doing the double over us was also up there for me as one of the lowest moments. 3-0 down at the Emirates, but I won't list all the low moments that happened last season.
As you mentioned the Emirates, someone has. I can't find the comment now. James mentioned obviously the Arsenal away. That certainly was. That was not a good day as well. And I think Ella's saying there obviously about the way they were all depressed with the FA Cup. I think that's when I'm picking mine. The 6-0 obviously is the one, but I think it's that moment watching Zelen walk around with the FA Cup after that. Was just almost like, what are we doing? Like, it was so weird watching that happen because most of the people I know didn't even come back out in the second half. I went down into the concourse at half time. I think it was 4-0 down. And I'm like, are you going back out? And I said, no. Some of them went home. Some of them were just like, I'm not going back out. And it was so empty in the block where we were in the second half. And I don't blame them. It's one of those. But fun fact for you. Here we go, Georgia. I'm going to expose you. This is how annoyed Georgia was. The first time I actually met Georgia was that day, and she barely said a word to me, which I don't blame you, to be fair, because I was hardly chatty that day. But that was not a good first meeting, I don't think.
I was not in a chatty mood. But no, apologies for that. But it's like you were just saying, I felt like there was such a contrast in them. We had like the highest of highs winning the FA Cup to then the lowest moment of the season for me anyway. And like we said about the parade at the FA Cup parade, we just looked embarrassed to be lifting it, to that little corner at the Stretford end, and Zelen just looked drained and didn't want to hold the FA Cup, and it was I think it was a humbling moment for sure.
And Barrett, throw it over to you. So I remember doing the show on that, and we spoke about Zelen, and like we said in the ground, like Zelen wanted to pass the trophy to other players, but no other player would take it off her because obviously just the embarrassment, I'd imagine, of parading that around after that result. But what was your lowest? I feel like you're going to go for something different based off what your answer was on the previous question. I think I know what's coming here. But what was your lowest moment of 24?
My lowest moment was realising that Manchester United is run by a bunch of B-Tech Teletubbies.
Is this got something to do with not letting the players say goodbye at the end of last season?
Partially. It's just every decision they make is absolutely bloody woeful. Here's a brand new 10 million area just for the women and for the youth. You're going to absolutely love it, but you can't have it for a year because we're going to let the boys go in there because they're much more important than you. Now, I stood up for that and went, all right, fair enough. That's where the money comes in. No problems. I stood up for people that were trying to have a go at them for saying that to BTEC Teletubbies, Michael. It's absolutely not a problem to the actual Teletubbies who were legends in their own right. But I think it's really important that we recognise that even though there is technical points being made by the people that run this club that are sensible, they have not put themselves across in the best possible light. And it is horrific watching how little this club seems to mean to them in terms of the women's side of it. That they've completely lost the fact that what they could do is just employ somebody to do the job whilst they muck about. And that's all they've got to do. There's your job. There's your budget. Do what you want. I don't care. You could say that, Jim. You could actually say that. I don't care. I don't care if you win the league. I don't care if you get relegated. I don't care if you win the... That's your money. Don't come to me and ask me for anything more. My focus is going to be here on these lads. It's going to take me the next 50 years to sort this crap out. So whilst I'm doing that, you have a way with it. Enjoy it. Do what you want to do over there. And then that person's in charge. And then when somebody comes up to Sir Jim and says, so talk to us, what do you reckon about the women? He could literally just go, no questions about the women. Ask. She'll tell you exactly what it is that's going on. Instead, they're just going la-la and talking absolute dipsy every single time. And to be honest, they're just making themselves look like a massive tinky winky every time they speak, because honestly, they are just pathetic. And the fact that nobody wanted to, or nobody has recognised within the club that we're losing our top players year after year because they're listening to the rubbish that's coming out of their mouth and going, what's the point in staying here? What's the point? We might be full-time, but actually, we're not really, are we? We're not really, because you're just not treating us like one. The fact that we occasionally get Old Trafford is great, but there's just not enough effort being put into the inside. And it's not about whether or not Mark Skinner should have been sacked or whether he should have been kept. Again, as we said after the FA Cup, actually, he probably deserves the extension on the contract, to be given the opportunity to see what he could do with the team. In the same way that Ten Hag did. Ten Hag was absolutely done by his players. Mark Skinner is just doing himself over now by, again, not allowing people to play, not giving people the chance. We're probably going to lose Hayley Ladd. Why? Inept leadership. So my lowest point is realising that the football club that I love just doesn't care about the women's football team and is actually just a PR exercise for them, in the same way that they were when they were just willing to bring Mason Greenwood back. To be honest, I'm a little bit embarrassed to be a Manchester United fan. That's my lowest point, is realising that the football club that I love has got the morals of a sewer rat.
Do you know what? When I said I have a feeling what answer you're going to give here, that's not the answer I thought you were going to give.
Oh, and I'm really annoyed that Katie Zellum was sold, but that was wrapped within that. I mean, how do you sell your captain? Highest assists. How do you sell that person without even giving them anything? That's absolutely mental. And that's what I mean. Complete tinky winky.
Yeah, it says at the top of the show, I think, when there's a lot of negative, obviously, stories at the moment around what's going on. I know there's a lot of opinions. We'll probably do a separate show on this when start to get some more information as to what this means for the women's team, because there's a lot of cuts going on, obviously, around the club, which obviously is it is now impacting the women's team and what's going on there. And someone made a comment at the start of the show saying we're looking into a quiet January. I think it will be. I think you're probably looking at a couple of outs, and that's probably about it. Maybe one in, two in at the moment. I just don't think it's really there. And I think that's the same for the men's team. It's just not there at the moment in terms of that priority. So I think we can
just add to that. This was spot on. The fact that Sir Jim Ratcliffe, when we've reached an FA Cup final, he should have been there. But it just shows how little he cared. He was too busy off watching the men. And it's the same thing. We didn't renew our contract. We could have, We could have showed her how loved she was. We didn't. Now she's having the time of her life in LA. And fair play to her, because she's having a cracking time. Everybody else is sat here with crap weather and having to listen to Sir Jim Ratcliffe just speak absolute bobbins. So, you know, mental.
So I don't realize. Yeah, no, I tend to agree. I think that's the. Yeah, I'll save all this for a separate show because I want to come back to a lot of this, you know, in terms of the impact on the women's team and things like that, because people have already pointed out, I think, with the Girls Academy as well, with the cuts they're doing to various things. Obviously, there's a knock-on effect there as well. So, yeah, there's lots of things to discuss when it comes to all of those things as well. Sorry. Looking ahead to the future a little bit, one thing that we did see this year, 3 of our youngsters getting obviously debuts. Emma Watson didn't come through the academy, but I'm going to throw her into that conversation as well because she did come through last year, obviously then got injured and has now been given that chance as well. So Georgia, I'll start with yourself. Jess, Saf and Emma all getting their debuts this year, or well, recently. Emma's now played 3 times, believe it or not, or appeared 3 times, 2 starts in that as well, and a goal already. And Saf and Jess as well have waited their turn and got their opportunity as well.
Yeah, I think. Forgot to unmute myself then. No, seeing players make their debuts for the club, you know, especially ones that have come through the academy, is always so special. I think Manchester United as a club, I think it's something crazy like 250 match day squads in a row on the men's side. There's been an academy graduate on the bench. We are a club built on youth. Well, the saying is youth, courage, success. If we don't have our academies bringing through talent, you know, we don't have anything. It's all well and good buying them, but there's nothing better, I think, than having some of your own come through the academy into making a first team appearances. And, you know, congratulations to all of them. Saf recently against Newcastle. And am I right in saying that Jess's was against Everton? Yeah, in the League Cup. So, you know, massive congratulations to them and hopefully many more appearances to come. But always good to see.
No, absolutely. And Barry, for yourself, just a word on those 3 as well, because I feel like it's important to kind of wrap up the year with a bit. You know, we've just had the lowest point, but I feel like that's three positives that we've seen this year as well.
We said before it's very important that we start to find a way in which you can get a pathway for the youth in women's football, and I mean that across the board, not just WSL level, but all the way through to Tier 5, Tier 6. It's really important that youngsters are given a way into their first team. You know, when you look traditionally at the youth structure of men's football, for example, not every youngster makes it through. We know that. So there's no part of me that's expecting to see every single youngster that plays for the youth teams of Manchester United to make it through to the first team, but you'd expect to see some. And that's the thing. That there must be some talent identified within the club as they've got a chance. And you'll never know if they've got a chance until you put them in there. And, you know, we can't look at the League Cup, for example, and say, let's just play all of the youngsters in that one, because that's not really fair on them. They're then having to play up a level effectively altogether. I think what's important there is to identify your top 3, who are your top 3 youngsters, and bring them through and give them that opportunity. And we look like we're starting to do that. Jess Simpson, obviously, being given a chance. I was an advocate for putting Saf in goal for all of the league games of the League Cup, because why the hell not? You know, at the end of the day, she's a goalkeeper. PTJ needs a little bit of a rest, and actually that would be a really good learning ground for her to see if she is going to be, it's the wrong wording, but worthwhile to keep hold of, or whether or not she needs to go out on loan and, you know, we need to get a backup goalkeeper in. There's a million and one things. I would love to know what Connor's laughing at. He's going to have to tell me later on. You know, there's something going on.
It's one of those. I've just started laughing and I can't stop now.
Bless you, little heart. It's nice to see you laughing. That'll be the 10 pints beforehand, won't it? But I think it's really important that the 3 of them have been given that opportunity. And I think, you know, last but not least for me would be the fact that we've finally seen Emma Watson come on and score a goal as well. I think that's really important. She's an unbelievable player and someone who we know is very highly rated within the game. She plays internationally for Scotland, but we shouldn't hold that against her. I think she is a fantastic footballer, and Connor hasn't heard that properly because he's either that or he's got his.
I heard something about Scotland. That was about it.
It's gone straight past. But yeah, so absolutely delighted. I think it's really important. Very, very pleased for them, and we want to see a bit more of it.
I'm going to rewatch that and find out what you just said then.
I said, yes, she's played internationally for Scotland, but we shouldn't hold that against her.
It's depressing talking about Scotland in any capacity. So, I wouldn't wish that on anyone. Yeah, it did. Yeah. You've got to keep an eye out for your fellow Scots and everything else. But there we go. Right, my final kind of question then before we look to wrap this one up, because I'm conscious obviously the men's game has kicked off as well, so keep us updated for the final kind of 5 minutes of the show while we wrap this one up. This is a tough question because I don't have an answer for this. Who would, if you could pick one player, who would be your player of the year for United women? I think this is tough because mine would split in two. For me, I do have one, I think. But it's tough because I feel like we've had a standout in the second half of the year, so this season, and also last season as well. So I'm intrigued to see what you two say here, because and you can tell by their faces, I didn't prep them this question was coming. So they're thinking on the spot here.
In a way, I like the fact you didn't prep us, because it means it's got to be organic, and you wait and think of a name that comes to mind straight away. And I've got to be honest, the one that sprung straight to mind for me was Maya Letitia. And that comes, like I say, defensively, I think we've been really good in 2024. She stepped up, taking the captaincy in the second half of it. But I just think she's moved in at centre-back. She's played incredibly well. She's stepped up in a manner that we can only be proud of. And I don't think you can choose an attacking player really, because we've just highlighted they're not hitting the heights that we'd love them to hit. I don't think we can pick a midfield because it's been so chop and change, and some of them have left. So it's got to be somebody in defence. It's not going to be Earpsey because she just went off to Paris Saint-Germain. I'd love to give it to PTJ, but she's already had an award so far this month, so she probably doesn't need another one. Which leaves you to your defence. It's pointless talking about fullbacks because we didn't have a proper left back for an incredibly long amount of time. So really you're only talking about Jade. I think that only leaves you Maya and Millie. And although I think Millie Turner has been absolutely superb, I think it's got to be Maya for me.
Honestly, don't even bother watching the game. Just come and listen to us. If that is true, I don't know whether it is or not. I'm not watching.
Well, I'm only on 3 minutes at the moment on Now TV, so it's just coming up. I'll have a little look.
There we go. So don't bother watching it. Just watch the end of us. On here, Georgia, who would you have gone for? To be fair, I'm kind of mine wasn't Maya, but I'm kind of siding towards that now. I think Barry sold me. Have you got a name yet? Who are you kind of leaning towards?
I, like you said, tough because the first and second bit. I think Maya is absolutely deserving for every single reason that Barry just gave, and I do agree. But I'm gonna give it to Jade. I think Jade is someone that is criminally underrated by our fan base and within the media. I think down that right, she is. When Jade plays and when we don't have her on the right, we are a different team to watch. We are, I think, defensively, obviously, incredibly good at what she does. But I think going forward, she gives us so much more. So, and I was really surprised not to see her on the assists list. But as we've said, we're not the most clinical finishers. We're not the most clinical finishing team. So I'm going to put that down to the reason why she gets up and down the flanks. And yeah, I think Jade for me, but equally, Barry did sell me on Maya as he was talking. So, but
go on.
No, go on, you can.
No, I was going to say it's interesting you say Jade, because that was my shout when I looked at the appearances earlier. She's played more than I thought. So, I said that she was my player of the first half of this season. I think last season when she played, she was excellent as well. So that was my shout. For me, it's between her and Maya purely because someone said earlier, she broke into the England team, she made captain, she's played every game. I think it's hard to look past someone like Maya. Millie's obviously a shout as well. I do think Fallon, the impact she's had already, albeit only half the year, I think she's in with a shout. But I think you've probably got to go with someone who's played the whole year, haven't you? So, yeah, Jade or Maya for me. Truce with you. Who else have people gone for? Joe's gone for Tooney or Garcia. TJ's gone for Tooney as well because of the cup final. Mark has gone for Maya as well. So, and Sporty's also gone for Maya. So, yeah, it's an interesting one. I think it's definitely between those two, but it's tough, isn't it, when players leave and things like that? Because otherwise you could go for like a Garcia or Paris even, top scorer in 2024. Somebody like her as well. So, yeah, definitely some players there as well. But hopefully, as I said, when we come back and do this in a year's time, we'll have even more we'll have somebody in double digits, I hope, at least, when we get around to doing that as well. Right, we'll look to wrap it up there. I would say so we can all go enjoy the men's, but I don't think that's going to be too much joy, is it, right now, to be honest? But there we go. This is the last show of the year. I did say that we'd run through some stats because I have to firstly massively thank this guy on my left or right, whichever way you're watching this, because when I said on the last show how many shows he's done, now not all of these are on the women's channel. On this one, obviously, if people know, we've got this channel, the men's channel, and All for Women's Football, which obviously is the broader scope for women's football. 197 appearances Barry has done this year across all three channels, which when you divide that's almost a show every 2 days pretty much, or just over, I think it is. That is insane. To put that into context, I'm the next down on 107. So almost 90 ahead of me and anyone else on the channel. So Barry, you absolutely smashed this year. 57 of those are on this channel, 83 on the men's, and 57 on women's football channel. So you've absolutely smashed it in terms of appearances on that one. But as I usually do, obviously, a few. I think I'll keep this brief because I'm not really in the in the thing to be doing end of year thanks and things like that right now. But there we go. Obviously, a thanks to everyone that you've seen, over the year, whether that's contributors and things like that. We've got a brilliant team of people. I said this to the guys last week, that I feel like this is the best team of people we've got going into 2025, and I do mean that. So the people you've seen on screen today, Georgia, who is a new addition, you'll be seeing more of Georgia into 2025. Keris, Andrew, who you will have seen as well. Obviously, Charlie's the regular on the Mondays as well. So I feel like we've got a good group of people. There are going to be some changes going into 2025. You'll see that in the coming weeks. With shows and with various things as well. So lots to look forward to. But also a massive thanks to you guys as well, because this community has grown massively. Someone asked me the other day in terms of how big it's grown now. And I think in the chat on social medias, whether that's TikTok as well, we started that this year. Twitter, Instagram has grown massively as well. There's a lot of you there. So massive thanks to all of you who engage in anything we do, and all of you in the live chat, because you make these shows what they are. You always make us laugh as we're going. You'll always see us just looking to the right every so often and start laughing at a comment randomly when someone else is talking. So that's massively appreciated as well, that you all come back and watch us week in, week out. Because as I said, it's all very well good us enjoying this and doing it, but it makes it even better when there's people to watch this as well. But as I said, stay tuned. There's plenty coming next year as well. Plenty of shows to look forward to and all those kinds of things. Barry, Georgia, anything to wrap up? Or are we all good for this year?
Well, as ever, it wouldn't be a show if we didn't also say a massive thank you to the Elvis impersonator extraordinaire, the poor food eater, the man who's never watched a film, and with the worst possible music taste in the history of the human race. I am, of course, talking about Connor. Like, honestly, there are, you've said all the thank yous that really kind of need to be said, but I will just reiterate, it is a great team. The people behind the scenes here are superb. There's no rucks, there's no egos, there's none of that. We are just genuinely United fans here to talk about United, and I think that is wonderful. And it's lovely to have actual United fans back in here as well, chatting constantly within the comments. You guys are superb. You absolutely make this channel what it is and what it should be. And I know from talking to Connor that we've got so much more to give, so much more to get ready for. If you think 24 was good, if you thought 23 was good, 2025 should be an absolute doozy. So a massive thank you as well to Connor, because it's his channel. You know, I might have done the 197. I'm a little bit annoyed I haven't made 200 now. There's part of me that's wishing I'd done a couple of men's shows just to do that. I kind of could have done with a heads up there because that's the wrong sort of number. We can round it up, but there we go. But I think it's a big thing that Connor does. He runs the Twitter by himself. He runs the channel and ensures all of the shows, they're all rubber stamped by him. And he puts a ridiculous and insane amount of time into this channel. So yeah, a massive well done to him. And yeah, a massive thank you to everyone who makes this channel what it is.
Indeed. No, I appreciate that. As I said, we got there in the end, in terms of the end of 2024. It's been, maybe you'll probably see more of this when we come to do various different types of shows moving forward. I mean, maybe we'll talk about it a little bit, but, because we've had some criticism this year and everything else where, it's easy to do and everything else. I've seen that a few times. Trust me, if it was that easy, there'd be a lot more of these podcasts and a lot more of these pages that are run, because it is not easy when you've got a day job as well. A lot of people assume this is just my full-time job. It isn't. And things like that. So it's 100% worth it when we see the community we've got. As I said, it's a lot in a lot better place, I think, now than it ever has been. So that's amazing to see as well. Georgia, anything for you? Anything final thoughts to wrap up the year?
Yeah, obviously I'm newer to being this side of the camera, but I did spend the other part of 24 in the chat with everyone, and I echo everything that Barry's just said about yourself and how hard you work for the channel. Equally, Barry, that is an impressive number of appearances in 1 year. And yeah, just such a hard-working team who make the channel what it is. Everyone in the chats constantly loves it, and it's so good to be a part of it now, and excited for all the exciting things planned in 2025.
No, absolutely. And as you see, hopefully on camera as well, because this was something I didn't know what I was going to say is, but we had this at the start of the year where a couple of people were questioning whether we actually get on off camera and things like that. And as much as we like to wind each other up on here at times and everything else, we do really get on, all of us, off camera as well. And it makes match days a hell of a lot better with all of us there as well. So it's not just an on-camera thing. We're not just here, just taking the mick out of each other for the sake of it. We talk more than you would ever believe off camera as well. So there's all that goes into it as well. But as I said, lots to look forward to in 2025. You'll hear about that soon once I get all that together and put all that out there. So you'll see more of that. In terms of next show, what we on 30th of December. So probably 10 days time, a week's time or something like that, as we can't start to gear up towards West Brom and beyond as well. But yeah, I can't believe, I'm going to wrap this up now, but I can't believe I've just done a whole thanks thing and a whole thing of 2024. Our first ever player interview was in 2024 for the channel as well. How could I forget? So thank you to Fallon for coming on. You're probably not watching this, Fallon, but thank you for coming on, because that was certainly a highlight for me of 2024, because I never thought I'd get that opportunity to do that. So that was, and looking at the viewing numbers, you guys are still watching that, because when obviously I see the numbers and everything else, it's still getting views on a weekly basis. So yeah, that was definitely a highlight, I think, from an All For United point of view in 24, because she just is, as people have now seen, just an amazing person as well as an amazing goalkeeper as well. Barry, I'm muted. I thought you was going to say something.
I'm going to say something because I forgot to do it when we were having our Christmas cracker. When we were doing our Christmas cracker, I was a little bit rude, really, because I finished it off by going, "Oh, Georgia, I don't really know who you are," because I didn't. It was the first time I'd met her physically on a screen, and it was only afterwards that as to who exactly Georgia is. Now, there are lots of you that have sat there and said, "Oh, thank you very much for the advent calendar. It's been such good fun." And yes, whilst I may have been the brains behind the teasers, I absolutely was not the brains behind anything creative, and nor was Connor, although he did stick a couple of Santa hats on pictures and such like. The advent calendar itself, and indeed the vast majority of what you see graphic-wise, not the slideshow that Connor just did. Let's not try and take that away from him. But everything that you've seen in that respect has come from Georgia. Not the thumbnails, that's James as well. So a big thank you to James for all of the thumbnails that he does for the show. Again, these are things that aren't seen, and generally by people that don't stick their face above the parapet to be seen week in, week out. Georgia's an exception to that rule, and a rather wonderful exception she is too. So a massive thank you to Georgia for all of your graphics and everything that you've done as well over the year. Thank you.
There we go. See, as I said, there's obviously a lot of people that you don't see and a lot of things that you don't see necessarily behind the scenes. But as I said, we keep going. We've got big things, as I said, into 25. But yeah, the team is growing and everything else. And yeah, I can't say any more on it because I'm going to save it for the announcements of things to come in 2025. So again, thank you to everyone who's watching. Make sure you're liking this video and subscribing if you haven't already. Have a good and safe New Year's, however you spend it, and obviously we'll see you guys on the other side in a couple of weeks' time. If obviously any news comes up and things like that, we'll be live, of course, to react to it and everything else. Have a great New Year's all, and we'll see you guys on the other side.